A Begin in the Dark by Noha Ijiachi. Chapter 26. Symbols. When Shoto woke up, the realization really crashed at him. He and Midoriya went on a date. They had fun, they held hands, they hugged, and even kissed. Midoriya said that he really likes him. Shoto slowly sits on his futon, blinking. Midoriya said that he likes him. Something weird is going on in his chest. There's the unabashed joy, the same he felt the prior night after they parted ways. But there's something else too. Something darker. How could someone as wonderful as Midoriya really love you? A little malicious part of him whispers in his ear. He probably said that just because he took pity on you. Poor little unloved Shoto. He knows who you really are after all. He probably felt sad for a poor excuse of a broken person such as yourself. Shoto slaps both hands on his cheeks, angry. Ever since the sports festival, ever since Midoriya literally saved his life, it had been easier to silence this bitter voice inside him, but that doesn't mean it has entirely stopped. It still creeps up to him, surprising him with dark thoughts that cuts through the fog of contentedness he feels whenever he's around Midoriya, Uraraka, Ida, and Yaoyorozu. And slowly this happiness is extending to the whole class bit by bit. And he knows it's not true, but the voice malignantly murmurs. Midoriya would never lead him on just because he took pity on him. Midoriya has always been very open and honest, for the most part, but then again, Shoto does not blame him at all for keeping the secret about All Might. Midoriya would never lie to him about something like this. Shoto has to believe that Midoriya really returns his feelings, or at least returns them a bit. Shoto doesn't pretend to believe Midoriya would be as deeply in love as Shoto is with him at this stage, but even if the feelings inside him are only blossoming now, it's still a step forward. If Shoto is right about this, maybe one day he will be able to say, "I love you," to Midoriya and hear him say it back. Hopefully. Squashing the darkness inside him, Shoto let himself take a minute to just bask into the joy he feels. He already can't wait to see Midoriya again, spend some time with him, talk to him. Speaking of which, it's just barely over 7 in the morning, he notices, looking at his phone. Maybe he could catch him in the kitchen for breakfast. Shoto immediately rises to his feet to go downstairs. He doesn't bother to change out of his pajamas. It's not like Midoriya would, or could, care about it anyway. When he rounds the corner to the little kitchenette from the elevator, Midoriya is standing there frowning as he rummages in the kitchen cabinets, his hair messier than usual, and the faded All Might shirt and soft pants he was wearing suggesting he had just got out of bed as well. Where the heck? There's no one else around, which is not surprising. No one would be up at this time, especially on a Sunday, unless they had specific programs for the day like he and Midoriya. What is the problem? Shoto asks gently, approaching his... Well, he was not sure yet what he should call Midoriya in his mind at this point. Midoriya jumps a bit, turning to him with wide eyes before relaxing, a small smile appearing on his face. "Oh, Todoroki! I didn't hear you come in. Good morning." Shoto approaches him close enough to feel the warmth of Midoriya's body. He carefully puts a hand on the nape of his neck, and any doubt he could possibly still have about what Midoriya really feels for him is immediately quelled when Midoriya relaxes into the touch with a little content hum, an elated smile appearing on his face. "Thank you, God, for early mornings." "I was searching for the tea box. I have no idea where it is," Midoriya says, answering to his first question. "Everyone keeps moving things around, so sometimes it takes me a while to find what I need." Shoto blinks. Of course, how many things they all take for granted that end up becoming a challenge for Midoriya instead? "You should tell the class," he says after a beat of relaxed silence, his thumb gently stroking the curly hair, so they'll stop moving things. Midoriya shuffles on his feet, a little embarrassed. "I don't want to inconvenience anyone," he says in a low voice. "I can't demand to have 19 people cater to every small whim of mine." "Midoriya." Shoto sighs, a little exasperated. "This is not a whim. You live here like everyone else. You have the right to be able to fix yourself a cup of tea without wasting time, because someone moved the box in a different place. When Midoriya doesn't answer, fiddling with the counter his hand is resting on, Shoto rolls his eyes. He sees how it's going to be caring for this one. Alright, I'll tell them. Midoriya turns to him a bit more, a small frown on his face. Todoroki, really, it's not... He doesn't finish the sentence when Shoto puts his other hand on his arm, caressing him. Let me do this for you. Okay? Shoto says in a low voice. It's no problem. Midoriya sighs, his eyes casted low, and then he leans on Shoto, head resting on his shoulder, his arms circling Shoto's waist in a relaxed hug. Shoto gladly takes him in, one arm around him, his other hand raising to Midoriya's head in a gentle pat. Midoriya let out a little content sigh, rubbing his cheek against Shoto's shoulder as the relaxed silence stretches. Todoroki, he murmurs after a while, Shoto's fingers carting through the soft curls as he holds him. What are we? Shoto blinks. I don't know, he says slowly. I'd say we're not just friends anymore, but boyfriends seems kind of too official. Midoriya finishes for him when he hesitates. I don't know, he adds in a little huff, pushing his forehead against Shoto's neck. Shoto takes his time as they both stand in the relaxed hug. I won't mind making it a little official, he finally admits, tilting his head to rest his cheek against Midoriya's soft hair. I want to tell everyone what I feel for you. I don't want to hide. The realization surprises even him. The sentence unconsciously came out, but it's the truth. He doesn't want to treat his relationship with Midoriya as something shameful that needs to be hidden away. How could something that made him so happy ever be shameful? Midoriya seems to tense a bit in his arms, but relaxes right away. Are you sure? He asks, hesitant. There's a lot crammed in his voice, and Shoto doesn't need to ask why. Shoto looks down, his left hand sliding from Midoriya's hair to go rest on his cheek. His thumb brushes against the little scar under Midoriya's right eye. I've spent my entire life hiding from my thoughts and feelings, Shoto says, almost a whisper. What I feel for you is not something I'm ashamed of, nor something I think should be hidden. I want everyone to know that I love... Shoto manages to stop himself just in time, his heart shooting up in his throat after that almost slip. He does love Midoriya, but maybe it's a bit too soon to drop that on him. I want everyone to know that I like you, and that I want to be with you. Midoriya hums and sighs, leaning into Shoto's hand with his eyes closed. If that is okay with you, of course, Shoto adds in a low voice. He honestly wouldn't mind shouting his feelings for Midoriya from the rooftops. Actually, he'd like to, just to make clear to everyone that Midoriya was taken now. But that didn't mean that Midoriya felt the same. Yes, it is, Midoriya says softly, immediately chasing away the clouds of doubt. He shifts a bit, turning his face up to Shoto with a little smile as he cracks his pale eyes open. I don't want to hide either. His thumb strokes Shoto's back gently as a bit of red dusts his freckled cheeks. Morning kiss? Shoto really doesn't need another invitation. Izuku relaxes against the car seat with a little soft sigh. He cannot remember when was the last time he felt so content and serene. His heart seemed to have grown 10 times the usual size in his chest, filling him with calmness and warmth and everything good in the world. Todoroki just made him so happy, even only thinking about him. And his soft kisses and his gentle hands and his warm voice made Izuku feel like he was flying 10 meters off the ground. Man, holy crap, I got it bad. How did I not realize sooner that I felt this strongly for him? It's so obvious in retrospect. How happy I felt every time I was around him. I'm really tense. So, Mom casually says from the driving seat, snapping him out of his musings. How did yesterday go? Izuku hesitates. If it was just him and Mom in the car, it wouldn't be a problem, but a certain someone else seemed to have decided to accompany them in their little suit searching that morning. And for how much he had accepted to be honest about things, Izuku still needs a bit of time to settle his racing thoughts before he could admit to him that he and Todoroki were together now. What do you mean? Izuku asks, hoping to derail the topic on something else.
Oh, I think she's referring to your date,
All Might says, distracted. Izuku makes a little choked noise, and there's a moment of silence, All Might asking in a perplexed tone.
Was I supposed not to know? Granted, I just so happened to accidentally hear you due to the fact you were on speakerphone, but still. You don't need to be embarrassed, my boy. You aren't at that age, after all.
Izuku hides his face in his hands, feeling his cheeks burn. What do you mean, speakerphone? Wait. He then asks, realizing what All Might just said, and bailing a bit. You mean? I'm sorry, honey. Mom replies, a laugh in her voice, not sounding sorry at all. I was cooking, so I put the call on speaker, so, everyone heard that, yeah. Izuku let out a loud groan, his head falling back on the headrest in desperation. All Might chuckles.
It's really not the end of the world, young Midoriya. Relationships are an important part of life. You shouldn't be afraid or ashamed of them.
Izuku takes a deep breath, trying to will away the blush on his cheeks. What All Might said reminded him of what Todoroki also said just that morning. About how he was not ashamed, how he wanted to be open and honest about their relationship. And Izuku accepted that. They were both right. There really was no need to hide. Izuku sat a bit straighter, forcing himself to be calm and mature about this. It went very well, he admits slowly. He's thankful that he's keeping his quirk turned off still because he's not sure he could deal with whatever that little knowing smug simultaneous Mom and All Might released had been. So, should I expect to gain a daughter-in-law soon? Mom teases gently, her voice amused, making him blush again and fidget with his hands as he tenses a bit. He never kept secrets from Mom, and he definitely doesn't want to start keeping them now, nor he wants to lie to All Might as well. He clears his throat. Maybe a son-in-law, actually. He manages to add in a low mutter, a knot of nervousness in his throat. There's a moment of silence, and then Mom releases a soft, unreadable, "Oh!" Izuku bites down on his lower lip, his heart beating painfully in his chest. This is the moment of truth. After steeling himself with a couple of deep breaths, he asks, "Is that a bad thing?"
Should it be?
All Might asks easily, and Izuku can hear the tilted eyebrow in his perplexed voice. You love who you love, sweetheart, Mom adds, gentle and honest. As long as you are happy, I cannot ask for anything more. Izuku melts on his seat with a little, "Thank God you guys are so cool," making both of them laugh. Finding a suit in the end seemed to take more than they had estimated. It took quite a bit for the desperate woman working that morning to find a piece that could fit young Midoriya. The boy was still rather short, only a bit taller than his mother, but his fit body seemed to fill the suits that were the perfect length a little too much. It took quite the amount of trials to finally find something that seemed to fit properly, a dark gray three-piece, and even if the buttons on the waistcoat seemed to be a little taut on his chest, it was probably the most successful attempt they had all morning. The boy stood with a bored expression as the clerk, with the face of someone finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and his mother turned him around, patting and pulling to test how tight the clothing hugged him. I think this might be it. Inko finally sighed, relieved. Izuku, you better treat this suit well because I don't have any intention to go get another one for at least a year after this. So no villain fighting in it, please. The boy chuckles, relaxing. He stretches his arms a bit, testing the suit himself, and nods. The clerk seems overjoyed, the poor thing. Toshinori, dear, can you pick up a tie for him? Inko says distractedly as she starts to help collecting all the suits that ended up being an ill fit. At that, the clerk, that hadn't reacted to his presence at all when they first entered the shop, probably due to the baseball hat low on his face and the baggy wind jacket he was wearing, concealing his features as much as possible, gives him a long, curious look, recognition dawning in her features. Toshinori really misses the privacy he had to unwillingly give up.
Let's go, my boy,
he says, putting a hand on young Midoriya's shoulder, dutifully guiding him a bit away before the clerk could start to ask questions. Did she just call you dear? Midoriya asks in a low voice once they stepped away, something charged in his tone. Toshinori chuckles, amused.
She started doing that a bit ago.
He replies easily, picking up some ties and testing them against the boy's chest, trying to see which color and texture would be a better fit. Young Midoriya's eyebrow tilts, his pale eyes pointed at him.
Don't make that face. It just means she's more comfortable around me. Aren't we friends at this point?
I guess, the boy concedes, red, dusting his freckled cheeks. Toshinori blinks at that before a little grin opens on his mouth.
I understand that you are in a very romantic mood at the moment, my boy. But not everything has to be that, you know?
Oh my god! The boy exhales, the blush extending on his face, and he playfully swats at Toshinori's hand when he tests another tie under his neck. Don't! Just don't! Toshinori snickers.
Are you going to tell me who it is? I mean, I have hypotheses.
Please stop!
Assuming it's one of your classmates, I have a couple of candidates in mind.
Toshinori continues merciless. Young Midoriya hides his face in his hand, releasing a long, muffled groan against his palms. You're worse than Mom, I swear, he finally mutters, making him laugh.
Can you blame me for being curious?
Toshinori asks, smiling to himself as he finally starts to put a pastel green striped tie around the boy's neck, gently shifting away the hands, covering his face. The tie goes perfectly with the color of his eyes. A little bit, actually, Midoriya mutters, still red. I mean, it's not like you're actually my... He flinches, looking like he bit his tongue to stop himself from finishing that sentence, a guilty expression finding weight on his face. Toshinori's hand stills under his chin, midway through the familiar gesture of knotting a tie. I'm sorry, I was about to say something really mean. I'm just stupid. Carefully, Toshinori resumes his work.
You're not stupid,
he says softly.
And I enjoy being part of your life.
Young Midoriya nods, tense, his eyebrows twisted in a little frown. They remain in silence as Toshinori adjusts the tie, gently putting it under the waistcoat.
It's okay if you don't feel ready to tell me for now. There, hold on,
Toshinori says, giving him a little pat.
Very dashing. I'm sure your sweetheart will be enchanted.
Oh my god, you are the worst! Midoriya mutters, but a little smile opens on his face. Toshinori can't resist the temptation to ruffle his hair a bit, making him laugh. It's quite the complicated relationship he's finding himself wading with this boy. They always seem to be a step away from falling somewhere neither of them want to be quite yet. Cut off words and interrupted gestures hanging over them like a trap ready to snap at any moment. But at least they are walking this path together, even if with small, small steps. Oh, what a nice tie! Inko intervenes, breathless, surprising the both of them by appearing apparently out of thin air. Okay, let's go pay. And then we have to grab some shoes, too, before lunch. Actually, Izuku, it's better if you change for now. Don't want to risk staining the suit before the ceremony. Okay, Mom. The boy sighs, clearly exasperated, as he makes his way to the changing room once more. Toshinori and Inko go back to the counter, and the clerk can't help but shoot him some curious looks during the transaction. Toshinori wonders how they look from the perspective of a perfect stranger, if he really gives the vibe of being part of this little family rather than looking like an outsider, a late addiction. It surprises him, but only a bit, to realize that after all, he won't mind if people think that. Ida stumbles on his feet when they meet in the communal area. How do I look? Ochako asks as she turns around. She's wearing an emerald green dress with half sleeves and a folded skirt going way down her knees. It's very simple, not much at all, but it's the most elegant thing she had on hand, and she didn't want to go with the school uniform. Ew. Ida finally seems to find words. It looks really good. You look really good. He's blushing a bit in his navy suit, pulling at his tie. She can't help but gently laugh at the awkwardness. Thanks. You look good too, Ida. That seems to relax him a bit, the tense lines of his shoulders releasing, and he composes himself back by clearing his throat, adjusting the glasses on his nose. Once the others get downstairs, we'll go, Ida says, looking at the time on the traditional wristwatch he's wearing. Yaoyorozu told me she'd meet us there directly. Todoroki too. He seems to turn pensive after that, idly playing with the sleeve of his shirt poking out from under the jacket. What is it? She asks, because it's clear he has something to say. I thought we were done with the Midoriya bitching fest yesterday. That surprises a snicker out of him. That is very inappropriate, he replies, but he's smiling. I don't think I will be done with that for a while. Midoriya still needs a good scolding for keeping this from us. But no, that's not what I was thinking about at this moment. Then what? Ochako pushes, both of them moving to sit on one of the couches while they wait for their classmates to get ready. Ida hesitates, his nervous fingers moving from the sleeve to his watch. I saw something yesterday I'm not quite sure I was meant to see. And I do not think this is any of my business, but they are both my friends. He's starting to mutter like Midoriya. Ochako sighs. Just spit it, Ida. They were kissing. Ida blurts out after a beat. Tense. Midoriya and Todoroki, It just surprised me. Ochako blinks. Then she splutters, covering her mouth with a hand as Ida turns to her with a perplexed expression. Did you know? He says, realization dawning in his eyes. Ida, I love you, but you are kind of clueless, she answers, laughing. Admittedly, them kissing is a rather new development, but Todoroki had been smitten with Midoriya since pretty much after the festival. They went on a date yesterday. Ida frowns, his hand rising to his chin. I really had no idea, he mutters to himself. Silence falls on them, and Ochako eyes the frown on his face warily. Is that a problem? She asks carefully after a while. What? Oh! Ida says, snapping out of his deep thoughts, the frown disappearing. No, of course not. If they're happy, so am I. I was just thinking that I might be kind of clueless, I guess. He admits, embarrassed. Ochako smiles, petting his arm. It's okay. This kind of stuff comes with experience. Ida sniffs and hums, just as more of their classmates start to trickle in, excitedly chatting. They are distracted from the topic as they start to group up outside, and Ochako can't help but grin to herself. Since Midoriya and Todoroki came back so late yesterday and disappeared early in the morning today, she didn't have the chance to really talk with either of them. But if they've been kissing, it means the date must have gone well. She's really happy for them, and she also can't wait to tease them. She deserves a bit of fun after having to deal with both of their whining. Mostly Todoroki's, though. As much as she cares for him, she has to admit the guy is an absolute disaster. For now, she looks at their little group as Ida dutifully guides them out of school grounds, taking his class president role seriously, even during their off days. Everyone seems relaxed and happy, all of them dressed in what she guesses could count as elegant clothing. Some of them are barely managing like Hiroshima, then they put on a dark pair of jeans and a white shirt with a school uniform tie and called it a day. and Ochako let herself bask in this feeling of closeness surrounding all of them. It's true that they've all been through some really bad stuff since the start of school, but that seems to have cemented their bond even more. She's so happy she found the courage to try the entrance exam for UA. When they get to the elegant, official-looking building, they are not surprised to find the familiar faces of their teachers and Principal Nezu waiting outside. Aizawa-sensei blinks at them, back in the same suit he wore during the press conference, hair slicked back. He tilts an eyebrow.
Did Midoriya tell you?
He asks.
Knowing him, I thought he would have kept the whole affair on the down low.
Oh, he tried to. Ida replies, reproaching. But Todoroki found out and told us. Actually, Sensei, why didn't you not tell us?
Aizawa-sensei shrugs.
Technically speaking, this has nothing to do with your studies. It was Midoriya's decision.
Ida purses his lips, clearly not satisfied. And yet you knew he wouldn't tell us. That was very unfair of you, Sensei.
Aizawa-sensei groans,
Tired.
I can't believe Midoriya's cheekiness is rubbing off on you too now.
He mutters, making Ochako snicker a bit.
Ida's expression suggests he feels a bit bad for
Talking back to their teacher,
but at the same time, he clearly doesn't regret it at all. Guys! Yaoyorozu accidentally interrupts by approaching them, cheerful. Todoroki is by her side, too, the both of them very elegant in their deep red dress and pure black suit. Todoroki makes a beeline for Ochako, a serious expression on his face.
Can I talk to you for a second?
He says in a low voice, surprising her. She nods and follows, silent, perplexed. He guides her a bit far to have some measure of privacy, and then he takes a deep breath before turning around. He starts, but then hesitates. Rebecca, I just wanted to make sure you are okay. Otako blinks and frowns. What do you mean?
Todoroki's eyes suddenly shifts away from her, the tiniest hint of a blush rising to his cheeks.
Me and Midoriya, I guess you could say we are together now, he says carefully. And so far, it has always felt like a vague concept, but it's real now. And you are my friend too, and I care about you, and I don't want to hurt you. Ochako makes a little surprised noise, catching up. To be fair, she never went around to tell Todoroki that her crush on Midoriya was pretty much over, despite having directly and indirectly given him her blessings multiple times. She smiles to herself, a warm feeling taking place in her chest as she puts a gentle hand on Todoroki's shoulder. Thank you, she says, smiling, Todoroki's mismatched eyes turning back to hers. You are very kind, Todoroki, but you mustn't worry. I still care for Midoriya, of course, just not romantically anymore. I'm actually really happy for you both.
Todoroki takes a little hitching breath, looking like a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders.
I'm glad. He finally says, a tiny smile pulling at his lips. The thought of hurting you was unbearable. Then he blinks. Wait, did you know already? Well, she let out a tiny laugh. You guys haven't been exactly settled. Ina saw you kissing yesterday.
Oh, Todoroki says that, and rising to his face to cover his mouth as he looks to his side, embarrassed.
I guess we haven't been very careful. Ina can keep a secret if you are worried about that. No, I know he can. But I'm not worried. The hand slides away as a fond expression rises to his face. Me and Midoriya, we spoke about it. We don't want to hide, so it's really no problem.
Ochako blinks, surprised at that.
Oh! Okay, that's good then. I hope you are ready for some merciless teasing as soon as the rest of the class catches up now.
She snickers. Todoroki let out a small chuckle.
As ready as I can be, he replies before smiling to her. Ochako finds herself holding her breath. Todoroki had gotten increasingly more open and relaxed with them as time went by, but it's the first time he ever gave her a smile like that. Thank you. for everything. He says, the words loaded with much more than they could possibly contain. And, you look really good today. Ajaka grins back, graciously accepting the arm he was offering her like a true gentleman, even giving her a proper little bow, to which she answered in kind, and together they walked back to their class, laughing about their silliness between themselves like old friends. The whole ceremony is over before Izuku can even really register what is going on. He goes through it, tense, clutching his cane against his chest, resisting the temptation to loose the tie around his neck a bit. He doesn't really have time to take a breath after, as he's whisked away for some pictures. All Might is a solid presence near him, guiding him with a hand on his shoulder. He hasn't asked why Izuku was keeping his cork turned off at first, but before the start of the ceremony, as they stood in the backstage, he leaned down, his voice low.
Young Midoriya, are you sure you want to go through this with your cane?
He asked, gentle.
If you do, it will be clear to everyone that you are blind. I do not mean to imply you should hide it, of course, but you should be aware that our enemies will undoubtedly try to take advantage of that.
Izuku gulped around a knot in his throat, taking a deep, shuddering breath. I know, he answered, voice low. I thought about the possibility, but I can't keep it hidden forever. And both you and Agent Tsukuuchi said that this ceremony was meant to be a symbol for many people, right? So I thought it'd be nice to show that even someone like me can be of help to others. All Might's hand tightened a bit on his shoulder after that. His voice had a strangled note in it when he spoke.
I see. That is very brave.
The hand slid over to Izuku's other shoulder, giving him a short half-hug.
I'm very proud of you.
Izuku smiled up to him, a warm feeling blossoming in his chest, as it usually happened whenever All Might would praise him. He was still unsure, but at least it was nice to know that All Might approved of his decision. They will probably ask you some questions, Agent Tsukuuchi is saying as he guides him outside the building, snapping him out of his musings. If you feel you don't want to answer, just give me a sign and I'll intervene. Okay? Okay, Izuku replies, tense. He's not exactly happy at the idea of having to speak with reporters, but then again, he is studying to become a hero, and public presence is part of the job. He will have to start to deal with that at some point anyway. All Might gave him one last reassuring squeeze.
I'll stay back. Better not give them more reasons to ask questions. I'll see you later, young Midoriya.
Izuku nods, following Agent Tsukuuchi's hand that had found his shoulder after All Might separated from them. Stairs, Tsukuuchi murmurs, and Izuku carefully starts climbing down. The reporters are just down there. I'll make sure they won't go overboard. Okay? Thank you, Agent. Izuku replies, taking a deep breath to relax a bit, flashing him a little smile. He could already hear the sound of cameras going off. When he finally stood in front of them, Izuku forced himself to hold his head high, his fingers tight on the handle of his cane as he willed them to stop trembling. A woman spoke, introducing herself and saying the name of the paper she worked for. It all went over Izuku's head, too nervous to really pay much attention to details, but then the inevitable question came. Midoriya, can I ask what the cane is for? I'm blind. Izuku replies honest, and he didn't even need his quirk to feel surprise going through the little group in front of him. I've been since I was 4. The cameras went off again as the reporters spoke over one another to ask more questions, and Izuku felt a bit more sure, steeled in his resolve, as he patiently answered anything he could. The rapid-fire questioning seemed to last forever, far more than the actual ceremony did. Agent Tsukuuchi intervened on his own at some point, kindly taking him away after firmly telling the reporters that the time was over. Izuku took a deep breath, his shoulders drooping forward as he relaxed after they finally went back inside. You did good, Agent Tsukuuchi says, a smile in his voice. You've given clear answers without giving important details away. You might be a natural at dealing with the press, Midoriya. I literally have no idea what I just said, Izuku admits, a bit hysterical. I was too nervous. I guess I only managed thanks to the fact I speak to myself way too much. Tsukuuchi laughs. I am sure they are all already going wild at the idea of writing moving and inspiring think pieces about you," he says, amused, giving Izuku a short pat. "Welcome to the world of heroes, Midoriya." Izuku scoffs, making him laugh again. "Let's go. Your friends are waiting for you in the hall," Tsukuyoshi says, gently guiding him away. Izuku blinks and then sighs. Alright, Todoroki did tell everyone. Izuku wonders if the entire class actually came, but he does not dare turn his quirk back on yet. It kind of gives him a measure of peace, the idea of not being subjected to everyone's emotions in a day as delicate as this. When they get back into the hall, Izuku is immediately hugged tight, wondering who it could be for a whole second before he hears a familiar sniff. "Mom!" He smiles, exasperated, hugging her back. "Come on, stop crying. She snivels, placing a wet kiss on his cheek. "I'm so proud of you." "I know, Mom," he replies, voice low, his chest tight as he relaxes in her arms. "Love you," he adds, making her give a little trembly chuckle as she releases him to card her fingers through his hair. "Midoriya!" Izuku can hear the ticking of heels on the floor as Uraraka approaches, and he blinks, trying, then failing, to imagine how she must look. She's probably very elegant right now. Mom let him go, stepping aside, and then he feels the familiar hand on his shoulder. "You are in so much trouble, mister," Uraraka mutters, poking his forehead. "You better get ready for some scolding because I can't believe you kept this from us. Would it help if I told you I'm sure you look very great right now?" Izuku says tentatively. She sniffs. "Your flattering words mean nothing to me, Midoriya," she replies forcefully flat, but he can hear a smile in her voice. "But I guess I can postpone the scolding to a later time, for now." Then she leans a bit to him. He can feel her hair brushing his cheek. "On another note, Todoroki told me the nice news. Congratulations," she adds in a whisper. Izuku has to fight the blush he feels rising to his cheeks. Suddenly I have the feeling you and Todoroki have been conspiring behind my back this whole time," he replies in a mutter. "It's not my fault he needed a shoulder to whine on while you were completely oblivious to his feelings," Uraraka replies cheekily, making Izuku laugh. He had a hard time imagining Todoroki whining. Speaking of which, a very familiar cold hand found his after he felt someone else approaching, and Izuku's heart happily skips a beat as he turns with a small smile. "Did you really tell everyone?" he asks, because he can hear more steps now, and it's clear there's a rather large group approaching. "I told you I would. I don't know why you are surprised," Todoroki replies matter-of-factly as his fingers entwine with Izuku's. "And yes, before you can ask, everyone is here, even Bakugo." Izuku splutters and Todoroki adds in lower voice as their classmates are grouping around them. "Although he looks ready to murder someone, and there's a woman that I'm pretty sure is his mother keeping him in check, so I'm not quite sure he came on his own volition." That gets another laugh out of him as another familiar hand gives him a short pet. Ida sniffs.
Midoriya, we will have to talk about why you thought it was proper not to inform us of this ceremony at a later time,"
he says, severe, and Izuku knows he's not getting out of this scolding unless a miracle happens.
"But for now, congratulations."
Thanks, he replies embarrassed, idly picking at his cane he's holding in his one free hand. "And also, thanks for coming, everyone, even if it was kind of last moment."
"Yeah, about that!"
Kirishima says, unimpressed, but there's a note of fondness in his voice.
"You're an idiot!"
Izuku can't help but
Sneaker at that.
Okay, I deserve it this time.
"You deserve it all the time!"
Kirishima replies, not missing a beat, and Izuku can hear Kanchan grumbling small, "Yeah, stupid," from somewhere in the group. Izuku grins. Hagakure suddenly says, surprised, before letting out a little delighted giggle. "I thought you were kidding about them being a couple, otaku." Izuku blinks, wholeheartedly confused by that non sequitur, before he deals Izuku blinks, wholeheartedly confused by that non sequitur, before he feels Todoroki's grip on his hand tighten a bit and oh crap, right there, holding hands. It just felt so natural. Izuku did not think about it in the slightest.
Wait, what?
Ajito intervenes, excited.
You guys got together? About time?
Wait, what do you mean with about time? Izuku can't help but exclaim, scandalized. Just how many of you have been gossiping behind my back? He can't finish the question, feeling Todoroki's warm hand under his chin, tilting his face up a bit as Todoroki presses a small chaste kiss on his lips, quelling the questioning noises most of their classmates were making at the exchange between him and Ajito. If this is a problem for any of you, Todoroki then says, his voice even, Izuku still frozen after the gesture, I frankly won't care. There's a long moment of silence before Kirishima exclaims earnest surprise, coloring his voice. I did not see that coming at all! Izuku starts laughing, resting his forehead against Todoroki's shoulder, unable to stop. Inko blinks, surprised, as she watches the little scene from afar. Well, I guess that answers my question. She hears Toshinori Well, I guess that answers my question. He hears Toshinori murmur to himself, amused. A bit further, Aizawa sighs loudly, his shoulders drooping forward, attracting Toshinori's attention. I was kind of hoping he'd been going out with someone outside of class, Aizawa says to Toshinori's unasked question. I knew the chances were slim, but still. Now I gotta deal with the teenage drama. Toshinori snickers, clearly not sympathetic to his colleague's plight. I'm sure you will be fine. You say that just because you're new to teaching. Inko grins to herself, watching her son happily chatting with his surprised classmates leaning easily against Todoroki. She has to admit that he wasn't exactly the first person she thought of when Izuku told them about his date, but by the way Todoroki is looking at her son, it was clear that there was a deep connection there. His mismatched eyes were full of love and wonder, as if he couldn't quite believe himself that he had the luck to be holding Izuku in his arms right at that moment. His mismatched eyes were full of love and wonder, as if he couldn't quite believe himself that he had the luck to be holding Izuku in his arms right at that moment. She turns when she hears a soft snicker at her side. Miki looks at her, grinning.
It looks like he thinks Izuku hung the moon in the sky.
She comments, amused. That he does. Inko laughs, putting a hand on her shoulder. Aren't you going to scold Izuku too?
In a bit.
Miki replies with a huff.
I can't believe he didn't tell anyone.
Imagine my surprise when I got a message from Todoroki about it, Inko says, shaking her head. I didn't even know he had my number. I was sure Izuku told his friends at least. I really don't know what to do with that boy anymore.
He's just that dumb, I'm afraid,
Miki replies, rolling her eyes.
I know I love you, but I think I have to disclose to you that you got a terminal case of stupid sun, Miss Midoriya.
That drags a hearty laugh out of her as she gently pushes Miki forward. Come on, go say hi. I'm sure he'll be happy to know you were here too.
No, he won't after I'm done with him,
Miki replies, cracking her knuckles. She flashes another little grin at her before strolling up to Izuku, cutting through the little group of his classmates to grab him in a chokehold under Todoroki's surprised eyes and give him the nookie of a lifetime. Izuku uselessly trying to squirm away from her arm with a whine. Miki!
Shut up and take it, Midoriya. Maybe it'll teach you something.
Toshinori is openly laughing now. That is until someone pokes his shoulder and he turns around, finding himself face to face with
Izuku.
She smiles, tilting an eyebrow. Hello, Mr.
Hello, Mr. Shimura.
She says.